This is just a taster. These are some of the feminists. This is some of the feminists I kind of done some stuff looking at. Some of the ones I like, I work with. Some of them in the UK, some of them not. We all know the first one, Angela Davis. I'm definitely a Malcolm X person. So for me, the Black Panther, Angela Davis is one of those people. Bell Hooks, as you know. Patricia Collins. Donna Ford, very active, academic, African American. Gail Thompson does a lot of work on race and healing, African American. Anne Phoenix is a professor here at the Institute. Heidi Mercer, she's a professor. Stella Dagsey wrote with a colleague, with 3 other colleagues. You may have known that book. It's called Heart of the Race. It's absolutely fundamental. It's a UK book. It pops out the history of black women. Absolutely a read. It's very old. Well, it's not very, very old, but it's in the 80s, but it's a fantastic book. It really is. Valerie Amos. I picked up a piece of her work recently. Valerie Amos is the first black, which is Dame Baroness Valerie Amos, of course, and she's the first black woman which has been appointed or employed to run a university in the whole of the United Kingdom. The first black person ever to run the university. She's head of SOAS, and she's just been appointed there in July. So Valerie Amos. Debbie Wicks, Runnymede, she heads up the research unit at Runnymede. She was an academic. She doesn't really do university academia, but she's out there on Runnymede. And then, of course, myself. These are just people. There's loads of other people. Angela Davis, of course, Toni Morrison, Alice Walker, Maya Angelou. These are just a few people. I give you this, it's going to be a backdrop to what I'm going to tell you in relation to a small story. African American, of course, these are just more people, which I've just grouped them together so you know a bit easier. These are the ones which are Black English. I use the word Black English in kind of slants. Depends how we look at English, but when you hear what I'm going to tell you, then you understand why. So this is what I wrote. I'm going to read a little bit of it. So who am I? Question mark. The whiter side of black. Now you have to listen to what I'm saying before you think, well, what is she doing here? Lifestyle was so far removed from what the children believed I ought to be. In the midst of all of this, my mother lacked the understanding of culture or anything knowledge of Africa. So on reflection, I suppose, this is why my first introduction to racism, or maybe colour blindness in my house, my mother would refer to me as a little pickaninny. Of course, which is a derogatory term for a black person, out of affection and love. In addition to this, my country of origin, Africa, would be always, to me, identified as a place for heathens. So in the midst of the bigger picture, my mother did not see colour at all, or so it seemed. However, her siblings and their partners, which is her brothers and sisters, were troubled by the presence of a black child. Now, I remember one of my daughters saying something to me last year, and she abbreviated it, which I can't remember the abbreviation. And I said, what's that? And she said, angry black woman. And I said, why would you use such a term? And refer to yourself as an angry black woman? I don't understand. And so that links in with social inequality, because we are profiled. We are profiled, and I'm very, very concerned about the profiling. I've got some little clips I'm going to show you as well. We're very profiled, and why are we profiling that? That you're angry and you're a black woman. Are you saying you can't have any emotions? And what does it mean to be angry? My brother's wife is Greek. She's full of emotions and anger, and no one's going to call her an angry Greek female, but they want to actually call us that. So I think we have to be careful. So social inequality of how one is profiled as a black female, and that's being profiled as a black female by us, and being profiled as a black female by black men, and also by the media. And we seem to consume into that and don't get out of it. I think it's important. This class and glass ceiling of work. Now, I've had a doctorate for quite a while, and it's not easy in the house. I call it the big house. So my friends, because I'm from Somerset, so to me, I'm more kind of spoken out than Londoners, because in Somerset, we one drop and you're different. Whereas in London, it's a whole sophisticated way of doing things, which is very different when you're black. So for me, when I'm talking about the glass ceiling, it's solid. So in the house, I call it the house, because it is the house.
A point that was not intersectional, that you are a woman first and everything second. Mm-hmm. So I guess I was trying to reconcile.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I say that because I'm not seen as a woman. People don't see me woman first. They see me, as soon as I walk in that door, they see me as black first, and then they might have a discussion. They don't think, well, actually, she's a woman.
So is that like your act of resistance?
I think so, but also I was brought up as a lady, so I went to elocution lessons, I was brought to deportment lessons, I went to all this kind of stuff to become a lady.
Yeah.
All right, and then people don't accept that because it's a woman. They don't see me as a woman. They see me as something else, which is fine. But I want them to accept me as a woman. I am a woman too. So that's my kind of debate with that. Okay, thank you. Yes.
I think first of all, I want to thank you for coming and sharing your narrative. I think the question that I have is around the term violence. You didn't really touch upon that within your presentation, and I just wanted I know. So I just wanted to unpack that, whether you're talking about physical violence, because you did talk about that part, but also the mental and kind of implicit violence that we suffer on an everyday basis as black women.
Well, that's a really good point which you've made, actually. And the issue with me is I'm very minimalised. I minimalise everything. So I'm actually, when I talk about violence, I'm talking about physical and I'm talking about emotional. And when I talk about my black girls, I got some money from Mind, M-I-N-D, and I went there. I wanted to go there with the discussion about what's the statistics on black women and mental health. We have got statistics. This goes back to this room here. And I say, what do you mean you haven't got any statistics? We don't keep statistics on black women. We've got some statistics on black men. But I don't want to know about black men. I want to know about what's going on with black women. We've got some statistics on migrants and refugee women. Oh, okay. So I took a few crumbs from them because I'm a good entrepreneur. And I've done that particular article called Suffering in Silence, because you know what? Our young women, and I was asked to present at the House of Commons by Diane Abbott, that was 2 years ago, on the basis of some of the research, which was looking at, and it's suffering in silence because our girls are so-called good girls because they're doing better than the boys, aren't they? Black girls are doing better than the boys, but the question is, at what cost? At what cost? And the cost is, they're suffering in silence. So, you've got 12-year-olds which are self-harming. You've got 12-year-olds which are anorexic. You've got 16-year-olds which are trying to assimilate whiteness. Absolutely assimilate whiteness. So, you've got young people at university which are suffering with depression and a whole range of other things because of their identity. And we can say, oh, it's not really mine. And when they start talking, they're crying in my sessions. The tears are flowing, and it's the first time they've spoken about who are they and the struggle that they're dealing with who they are. And that's the bit which I'm interested in, because it's painful and no one's talking about it, because these girls have been achievers, and all of a sudden they are being identified as depression. And on top of that, which I think is even more emotional, so they do well at school, they get the GCSEs, they do their A-levels, they go into university, they finish university, then all of a sudden they haven't really put the grace card on the table, they haven't, because they haven't been taught to. They're not doing that, then all of a sudden, can't get a job. They try one place to get a job, they try another place to get a job, they try 10 places to get a job, and then, I know this for a fact, and then they turn around and say, it's not because it cannot be because I'm black. It's not, no, because no one's told me that. And all of a sudden, they've been diagnosed with depression, and this, and panic attacks, and this, that, and the other. And it's as though they've got this whole issue going on with their illness, but no one will allow them to diagnose it. And it's just pure, old-fashioned racism. And that's what we're dealing with. And these young people don't want to name it because they don't want to be seen putting the race card out. But they're actually suffering in silence. And it is horrendous. And you might think I'm essentialising something. I'm not. Whether it's Nottingham, whether it's Birmingham, whether it's London, all different places I've been doing this work. And it's the same discussion. So thank you for that. That's an important point. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. It's the internalized notion of what's going on because of identity, what that looks like, and also the notion of racism mixed up with that. And I can't even get a job in McDonald's. I can't even do this. I can't even do that. And it's what's going on. And these are girls these young women which are in the Russell Group. Yes. So you can't say, oh, well, it's because they're in the Russell Group universities. So all right. One of my daughters is the same colour as you, and the other daughters is the same colour as me. All right. Now for her, in some ways, she gets seen as more black than my oldest daughter. Now because she's grounded and she's not really interested in the notion of her beauty. That's not, for her it's a brain. But people can't walk past the brain because they're looking at what she looks like.
What she's identified with.
Absolutely. And black girls give her hell and white girls give her hell.
Yeah, I've experienced that before.
There you go. And all of that is problematic for them. Whereas the other girl, my other daughter, when she went to America, it was kind of, so who are you? Because they couldn't work out who she was, whether she's black or whether she's white or whether she... Yeah, so she's got all that going on. So for what I'm saying to you is being able to ground yourself, feel positive about who you are, and move on with that. And whoever says whatever, that's their problem, that's their projection of what they're doing.
It's like a sense of self-worth.
Absolutely,
yeah.
Absolutely.
I was really sick of African American women dominating the conversation, even in publications that were for black women in this country. I felt that African American women dominated the conversation. So I just wanted to change that rhetoric as well.
I love that.
We'll be watching a few of the videos that have just came out. BB History, you interviewed women.
Yes.
That was amazing, it's amazing. We're going to watch it now. And Kai, our lovely Kai, do you want to come up, Kai?
Come on, Kai.
Kai is the LCC officer at UAL, and she'll be leading the Q&A with Toby, and then we'll ask the audience questions as well.
But an Asian girl will walk into, who might identify as politically black, can walk into an office with her silky straight hair and no one will say a word. I've been in the office for 3 days with this hair and the comments I've had have been a lot. No, and it's true. It's true. And that's what I mean, and I mean it's just hair. I think it's for me, it's people who identify as some sort of African or Caribbean heritage. That's who Black Balance for. I'm not saying if you're not of that, you should never read it, but that's what I'm trying to make content in mind for.
Okay, and just to push this forward, so how do you envision Black Britishness in the future? Is it going to divide itself or just be a bit more separated from being under the umbrella of blackness where it includes almost anyone who's not white?
How do I envision it? That's a big question. I would like it to see, I'd like the conversation to develop. I'd like those in positions of power to acknowledge us and to give us platforms to have our own voices. One thing I think was really interesting that I didn't know, I wanted to bring up, was in Black History Month there's a Downing Street dinner for all black entrepreneurs and stuff like that. I didn't even know that existed. Why? That's a proud moment for Black Britishness. We should know who these people are that are forerunners in our society. Why don't we see that on the news? I mean, I'm sorry, if footballers go to 10 Downing Street on the World Cup and it's publicised like they're heroes and they don't come back with nothing, why don't we see these people? No, why don't we see these people? Why are we not allowed to celebrate
Because
with
the news
them?
corporations are owned by Rupert Murdoch, that's why. So we need our own news corporation.
As I said, I would like to see us having a conversation in our own voices, because I feel that right now, Black Britishness, like all Britishness, is something to be consumed rather than experienced. And I think that in academia, I think in media, I think that a lot of people take blackness and use it as a niche. I think that especially in academics, I think that people who are not black use it as a niche to further themselves along. You might have a genuine interest in it, but it furthers them. I think what happens for me for Black Britishness, what I want to achieve is that the experience should be told by the people who experience it, not the people who want to consume it. I think that's the most important thing. Because not all anger is, a violence that's gonna, tear the world apart. We can do some good with that emotion, but I don't think we're allowed to feel it. And at the same time, stereotypes of being a strong black woman, I think that really contributes to why black women suffer in silence with mental illness, because we're not supposed to speak about these things. We're supposed to be strong. We've had, we hear stories of, your ancestors, your mothers, your grandmothers went through all this, and they've come here, and you should be able to put up with this. And even sometimes you hear people in work being like, I need to be like the strong black woman, you know what I mean? I think sometimes that label can hinder us from even being the vulnerable black woman or the vulnerable woman. So I think that they really limit our emotions and hold us back from contributing.
I've definitely I've been misread a lot, thinking that I'm quite arrogant. I don't think I'm arrogant, but I think people are scared of women who know what they want, and women who know themselves, and women who are focused, especially if you're a young black woman. People don't like that. So I think in terms of overcoming obstacles, I think I've been able to, because I had that support frame at home. There were times it was really, really hard. Like after university, I actually did a lot of work for Channel 4 during university, and I started in a documentary, an award-winning documentary in 2011. And I definitely thought after I came out of uni, I had a job ready at Channel 4, and it didn't translate that way, and that was a very difficult time for me, graduation. And that was the time I started No Fly on the Wall as well. I think that definitely helped me find my voice and sort of solidify my armour, shall we say, and make me more confident in myself. So I'd say you need to have a stable force somewhere, someone you can confide in, someone who's always bigging you up and not telling you you're too arrogant because you're confident, or someone who's always making sure you can do anything you want to do. But also, overcoming obstacles. Yeah, I think, I'm a self-starter, so when no one made me an editor or no one let me be a journalist, I made sure I became one. So I started my own platform and I became the editor of that. And I think opportunity breeds opportunity. When people see you're doing stuff, more people want you to do stuff. And that's just how it is. You're doing stuff, and more people want you to do more stuff. So I think that's definitely been my kind of career. I think no one really let me have anything, gave me anything, so I had to just be like, well, I advocate the alternative route. I think everything I do, I've worked with The Guardian and people like that, but I actually am really here for alternative media, so that the media diversifies, the Black Ballads, all of these alternative platforms you'll find me on. So yeah, I think so that kind of confidence has come from, it's taken a long time, but it's now here. Thank you.
I'd agree with Letitia. I think it's funny when people talk to me about who the type of person who they think I am. I'm just like, who are you actually talking about? That's not me. So I think it's definitely been an ongoing process, but I think the most important thing for me has been just like believing in my own voice and knowing that I'm right in how I feel and what I think about things. Because a lot of times I think, especially in the workplace, you're kind of like, well, it doesn't really mean that, like, get over it, it's not that much of a big deal, like, why do you feel that way, just get on with it and stop being such a wuss about things. But like trusting, like when you know something, when you see something, like how you feel about it is how you feel about it. No one else can tell you that that's not what it is, or you shouldn't go in that direction, or this is too difficult, or you're never going to be able to do this. So really, like, believing in your own ability, and just believing in the fact that you can just, like, if you want to do something, go for it. You might fail and you might keep on failing, but at some point you will get there in the end. So yeah, just trusting your own voice, and also like being patient in how long it's going to take you to get somewhere, because me wanting to do this might mean I have to take 6 or 7 steps to get there, and it's not like an automatic thing.
I think it's just a journey that goes through life. I'm sure, like, as we all experience new things, motherhood, I don't know, a new job, there's self-doubt, and you just kind of have to get over that. But the 2 barriers that I overcame was when I worked at a TV magazine. My contract came to an end, and I was devastated because I'd worked really hard there and put up with a lot, been very excluded as a black woman, and didn't even realise why I was being excluded. And no one would give me a job that I thought I deserved, because I'd written for an established publication, I'd freelanced entertainment, but no one would give me anything. And I realised it's not about what people give you what you deserve. And someone always tells me, life's not about what you deserve, it's about what you can negotiate. And I could negotiate the fact that I had talented friends, I have a talent for writing, and I put ideas together, and I put Black Ballad together. So in a way that helped me overcome a barrier of not having a job. And it's opened up doors. The second thing that I think is important to know about me, about overcoming barriers, is my identity. As I said earlier, my parents are white. And sometimes being in a white space when you're the only black person, fully black, people can ask questions, and it kind of makes you feel like a little bit odd, and you know, you're a spectacle. But saying that, what's been the biggest challenge is being accepted in the black community. People will say that, you know, white people can't raise black children, or sometimes people find your parents are white and you're not black enough. But I've realised having to go out and get that identity, my white parents pushing me to go out and get that identity, has allowed my identity to be valid. It's allowed me to understand that there's more than one black experience. So those are two things that I've had to overcome.
So online platforms have helped black women become more visible in the media. To what extent do you think this has helped increase diversity in the mainstream?
I don't know if it has. Maybe a little bit, but I feel like, I don't know, I have this ongoing kind of like love-hate relationship with like diversity initiatives and schemes. It's like, how many more reports or numbers or figures do we need to see? Like, oh, it's a problem, it's so bad, oh my god, what are we gonna do? Where are we gonna find these women? Like, hello, everybody, like, it's like, what, do you really want to solve the problem, or are you just talking about it and saying, oh, it's such a problem? Like, do you actually want to solve it? Because if you don't, then don't like talk to me. Don't talk to, it just seems like hot air almost. So I think even though these platforms still do exist, I think maybe there's like, it's slowly pushing its way into the mainstream, but not at the rate at which it needs to. Because I guess the most prominent, prominent voices like, Aki and Saltfish, Cecile's and Strolling, and a few other like Brothers with No Game and Venus versus Mars. That's like 3, and there's still a whole load of other people who haven't been seen. And for a lot of people in the mainstream, like, oh my god, what is this thing? Like, we've all known about like Venus versus Mars and all of these things for like so many years. So it's almost like we're almost having to prove our worth to get into the mainstream, when it's like, cool, like, we exist, you come to us and find out what we're doing, and we show you this is how it's done. Not we like jump through hoops and yeah, okay, cool, you leave this out, you don't. So I don't think it's visible enough. I'm not happy with the visibility, but I don't know if the end game really is to have like a level playing field, because diversity and equality are not the same, the same thing.
I'm coming from France. We don't have so many black women, you know, in the media present, and when we have, it's like people like Grace Jones, because she sang the song of Edith Piaf, La Vie en Rose, many years ago, and she was highly sexualized. Iman is another one, although she's, you know, British. We like to show her body, but we don't really. I've never heard Iman speaking, I think, myself. So I think it's just, for me, it's actually quite sad, and we need to try and regain the power that every woman has, black women in particular. I think we focus on the aggressiveness sometimes of like someone like Serena Williams, but instead of talking about aggressiveness, why don't we talk about power? Why don't we talk about strength? Why don't we find more positive words to describe them? So it's just, yeah, the narrative is extremely damageable, causing much damage, you know, not to just black women, but to the society at large, because you just deny one part of the society, really.
Thank you for that. Our next question is, should black women be reclaiming the word hoe and bitch, like the likes of Amber Rose, Nicki Minaj, etc.? Should anyone please answer that question?
I think the reason... Sorry, I don't think people heard the question. Oh, sorry, yeah.
Should black women reclaim the word hoe and bitch?
I think so, in a way, mostly because people like the likes of Amber Rose have been, I don't know, they've been slut-shamed their whole entire lives. So it's like, why not take the term and spin it in a positive connotation whereby, okay, you can call me a hoe, but it's also allowing us to think, okay, what are we all defining as a hoe at the same time, and what are we defining as a bitch? Many people use bitch in the different terms. I'm sure, like, amongst, I don't know about everyone, but I'm sure friends use the word bitch amongst themselves, even if they're joking about, whereas you've got rappers who actually use it and are actually calling women a bitch, and when they're also calling women a slut. But when they use it, I think it's just a bit more, do you understand the angle I'm going with in terms of
take ownership?
Taking ownership of what it means, especially with her book coming out as well. So
I just think that whenever you continue to use those words, we just desensitize ourselves to the fact that we're allowing people to call it. Even if you're calling it to your friend, it's like, okay, bitch, whatever. Yeah, I know you're saying it in friendly terms. This is friendly form, but it's the same as the word nigger. You know, it's when you keep on talking about stuff and you kind of make it a friendly word, it's really hard to define the goalpost, and when you keep moving that goalpost, you give room to people to defend themselves after they said it. So when a person says in the media, oh, that girl's a bitch, or bitch something, it's like, okay, well, you know, she was saying it in friendly form. We all know it wasn't, but we give room for them to have that argument. So maybe if we kind of just try and highlight the fact that it is a derogatory word, it isn't a friendly word, there's nothing friendly about it. I do understand that people do say it in a friendly way, but people also say the word nigger in a friendly way. You know, nigger please, nigger what, nigger who, whatever. But when someone else says it, it's like, okay, well, who are we now to say, okay, well, you can't say it like that. Well, you can't say it in that context, because why are we saying it to each other at all? It was a word to suppress us, used to suppress us, and to be really, really horrible to us. And now we're just going to say, okay, well, that's all right, because we've decided that we're going to give it a new meaning for the meantime.
I think as well, people use words out of context, because I decided that I was going to go and type in Google, what does slut mean, what does hoe mean, whatever. And I realised that I didn't really know I know what the word means in the vernacular, but actually the definition, like a slut is a woman who has the morals of a man. Yeah. And a whore is a woman who's a prostitute, but she's not doing well financially. So you can prostitute, but you're a whore, you're not making no money. So there's nuances. Don't be a whore, yeah? So there's nuances in those things. A lot of the time we use language in inappropriate context because we don't even understand what it is that we're saying. And we don't understand the gravitas and power behind those things. And as you were saying with the NIGGA word, you know, Tupac used to say, never ignorant, get goals accomplished. But does that mean that the inspiration for that word, which is the oppression of African people, and the fact that when you were being lynched, that was the word that was being said to you as you were being castrated and lynched? The whole slut and whore thing, I think obviously it's not that serious gravitas as the nigger word, but I don't think we should be reclaiming it because it wasn't ours in the first place. It's something that's been projected onto us. And I think it is to perpetuate. And it also doesn't hold men accountable either. So it's all right for them to do certain things, but we again, it's like, where do you draw the line? What role are you playing today? Because it's all right to be a whore in the bedroom, okay? But then when you're in the street, you have to be a lady. And then you're expected to cook and clean and raise children and be an auntie and a sister and all these things.
And fly.
So there you go, and fly. So it's really about what is a woman, for me. I don't think we should be using those words to speak about ourselves. Queen, yes. High priestess, yes. Princess in training, for those that haven't got there, yes. Beautiful. I'm just keeping it real, because some people think they're queens and you ain't there yet, alright? You just ain't there. We're all in training, me included, we're all in training. But if we're gonna call ourselves things, like we don't understand the power, even that physically speaking a word has, right? You speak to a plant, negatively, it will die. You speak to a plant positively, it will live. So we're breathing out these things into the ether and into the atmosphere, to ourselves as well, and to each other, and we're literally creating life and death through the tongue.
I think it's a very dangerous territory to ask what Black women should and should not be doing, because I think we all have very different circumstances. And myself, for example, as someone, like, English is my third language, so I don't hold words to the same, they don't mean the same thing to me, a lot of these things. And that goes for a lot of different people, but also just in English, there's so many things that we appropriate or use from America, really, and they don't hold the same depth to us. So I think it's a bit, like, I don't think we should be kind of putting people down for reclaiming something that we haven't had to do. And I think if people want to reclaim something that has been used against them, then, you know, that's their struggle. If I don't want to do it, I'm not going to do it. But, like, if I see that they're struggling and they're trying to uplift themselves, all I can do is help them uplift themselves. Like, I don't think that we should be kind of judging people.
I understand that, but I just think that these words, when they're used in certain contexts and repeatedly, obviously there's one thing not trying to protect yourself, but then what about the onus on us to protect our nieces, daughters, younger sisters and the generations to come? Those people are going to be influenced and affected by what we allow today. So obviously I'm not saying cause a riot based on this, I'm just saying maybe think before you use those kind of words, because I'm not saying you're a bad person for using them, but there are future implications for that.
Absolutely, but I also think that people should learn intentions, and I think people can make a difference between when a word is being used in a way and when a word is not being used in that way. And what we should be focused on, I think, is more respect rather than the actual terminology, because that debate can go on for ages in so many different languages that it's more like, okay, we'll just start being respectful. And if someone is using that term in a positive way and it's working out for them and it's working out for their dynamic among their circle, like for example, you know, I don't really use NIGGA because I've not grown up around black people, it's not part of my culture, it's not a thing. But when I see people, you know, who are marginalized and like that's their community thing, that's how they refer to themselves, that's how they want to do it, like fair enough, because we can't deny the fact that there has been a sense of community built around that there has been a sense of family and of togetherness based on that. And you know, I can't go to an American and be like, oh, you're damaging the cause because you're using this. Like, we don't have the same, we can't hold them accountable in the same way that we would our oppressors, because these people are not starting out from the same standing point. It's not fair to be harsher on them. Like, we should be harsher on white people. Like, we shouldn't be policing our community so much to be like, oh no, let's be harsher on them.
Our community, it doesn't have to start with us.
Yeah, change needs to come from within, actually. So, and just to confirm a few things that have been said, words carry, again, I like this idea of power, sorry, they carry power with them. So, and also behind a word, you have a thought. So, and an intention. So what is the intention when actually you say that word? And when you ask the question, do we have an interest in reclaiming that word? I mean, personally, I don't think so. And I would totally disagree. I mean, I think in the mouth of a woman, those words shouldn't come out. But that's me being very, you know, conservative and, you know, like old-fashioned school. But I think because it's so, we give so much meaning and power. They may not have the same, we may not have the same references here in the UK compared to other, you know, places of the world. But still, it's not a good word to use, and it's definitely not a good word to reclaim.
Okay. Open up to the floor for any questions you guys might have. Black women face sexism and racism. We can all agree on that. Therefore, what does liberation really mean to a black woman?
It's a hard question.
I can start actually. I think it's, I mean, I've been through this journey as well because I'm French Moroccan, so I was born in Morocco and then grew up in France. I was the only foreigner in my class for maybe 18 years, and at uni we were 10 out of 300 being foreigners, and I'm quite colored compared to other people. So I suffered definitely from an identity crisis. The way I found solution and peace in my journey was actually my religion, but it can be anything else. So what I'm trying to say is what we should try to do at this stage is to reconcile within our own selves and seeking for inner peace and inner harmony. Because I know it sounds like big words, but it can make sense. It can make sense, but I still don't know how, you know, people are going to do. It's just an idea that I'm sharing with you, and I can build on this later.
I'm going to touch on what you said. You spoke about kind of being by yourself in an area. I was born in England, but my mother is white. My father was estranged, and my brothers and sisters are all white. I lived in Carshalton in Surrey, and everybody where I lived was white. My mother was she was very keen, and she used to bring me to my nan's house a lot. You know, she used to learn about the culture to teach me. She learned how to cook, etc. And whilst within my family unit, I didn't feel the pressures. I did in the wider community. You know, like Brown Girl on the Ring would come on. Trust me, it was really peak life. It's like, seriously, me again. I'm up, okay. the most damaging thing about that, I think, was that the people that were doing it, I genuinely don't think that they meant harm by it. They didn't think, oh, we're gonna put this creature in the middle and what's it called. They just thought, oh, this is cute. This is what's happening here, and I think that's very damaging. And then Bob Marley. Everybody loved Bob Marley. Me and Bob Marley don't have a good relationship because you see, when I used to go into the venues and I used to think this is, we'll put some music on for you. No, I don't want this. I don't want it. I don't want it now. I don't want it. I don't want to hear it. I'm glad that everybody else embraces the power behind it. I don't personally want it.
It's okay, girl.
I'm so over it. But what was the question? I've lost it. So I definitely think liberation. When I came to Northwest London now, I had a completely different experience because I felt estranged because I was with so many black people, and I had some experiences that are probably almost worse than the ones that I had with the white folk, from black people who I don't think accepted me. And I think that as a mixed race person, you do kind of, and that's something, it's like, okay, you're not black enough. And I did get that. I got a lot of that, you're from white, you don't understand this, you don't know this, you don't know this. And for me, liberation is the journey that comes with it, the middle path in finding yourself, in understanding actually, does any of that matter? Do what you think about me really matter? And then finding a way to empower others. For me, liberation was being able to find my journey, travel it, prove everybody otherwise. When I went to high school, I was a really naughty, bad youth. I think the requirements to try and prove to everybody that, that it's okay, I'm strong, I can do all of this stuff was really important to me. But also, my mum said to me when I got to school, I want your name on the board. And I was like, Mum, come on, man. And the teacher said, well, it is predominantly Asians that go on the boards, blah, blah. And when I left the school, I didn't realise that I got away with it's now in hindsight, I got away with so much because academia was simple for me. So I was treated like a trophy. And that was almost as bad as the race card because they let me get away with blue murder because they needed me for the school league tables. So Lena, she was there.
I was there, yeah.
And it's just about kind of in every circle, the liberation for me was realizing, okay, right, my name is on that board, that's great, but that doesn't actually mean anything. What means something is the fact that I can actually go my own route. I can do what I want and I can inspire others. And if it's one person on your journey that you inspire and you make them change their route and stop making them worry about what other people think, then that's true liberation for me.
I think whereby my story is a bit different is actually quite similar in terms of like the people who you're around. I think when I moved to, I went to one of the hoodest universities. I went to Bedfordshire. And when I went there, it was different for me in the sense, I remember my first month there, everyone turned to me and they said, I'm sure we've all heard it before, you speak white. To me, I was just like, I don't even speak that great, and I don't speak white. I speak how I speak, and to me, it was kind of insulting because it's just like you're insulting yourself. If I speak white, what you're basically telling me is, no, I speak proper and I sound different from you. And it was different because I felt like I had to change my identity in a way just to kind of, fit in. And I didn't want to do that. But at the same time, I told myself, okay, I'm not going to do that. I'm still going to try and be Dami. I'm going to be Oloni. I'm going to be me. And I'm going to make an example out of myself. And I think it's led to different opportunities for me. I told my workshop class that, I used to work I didn't work there, I was an intern there. And I was an example to myself and others as well in terms of race. And it inspired me to want to do something else, which was create my own brand, create Simply Oloni, be a part of different projects. I'm now a part of like some female talk show called Heels Off, and I remember someone saying, you filled the gap in the market. You never waited for like, white media mainstream to come and create this together. You guys did this. So I felt like that was my liberation anyway. So.
I think for me, we have have to examine as individuals what the word liberation means for you. Okay, because one woman's version of what her life should be, so some people might want to be a stay-at-home mother, for example. Other women might say, oh, you're oppressed because you're in the home, you don't go out to work. But for that woman, that might be the highest form of liberation for her, taking care of her family. My whole thing is that when I worked on myself, I had to get to that stage where I actually recognize what do I want for my life. Because for a lot of us, we go through school, possibly college, university, and we ascribe ourselves to what society's version of success liberation should be. And there's nothing wrong with being a professional person, having a degree, etc., going on a certain road. But what I do feel is wrong is that people are essentially funneled through that, and they haven't had a chance to take stock of them. Who are you? What do you want? What does success mean to you as an individual? And I think it's only after going through that path can you really begin to speak about liberation. Because for me, that's then living the highest form of whatever your version of success looks like to you, and actually making choices. There are a lot of us who are busy going about our days, weeks, months, years, and lives doing things that we don't necessarily want to do, that we feel that we have to. Maybe because our parents said we have to do this, maybe because there's pressure on us. As the young lady here said, you know, she went and created something for herself. That's her liberation, and then being an example to other people to say you don't necessarily have to do it this way, this is where I did it, I can help and support you, or I'm just here if you need me. And I think for too many black women, we are busy ascribing ourselves to things that we ourselves haven't never decided, and then we get 20 years henceforth or 10 years and we look back and think, why did I do all of that? So I just implore everybody in here to think about what it is that you want for your life, what are you passionate about, what drives you. There's something that you can do to create value for somebody else and have choices in your life and be liberated.
I'm still trying to find myself, I think, in terms of that, but something that I would very much like to achieve is to be able to secure like an economic power. So I would like to be able to spend money on black women. Like I want the money to turn within like our community. Like I want to be able to go to a restaurant owned by a black woman. I want to be able to go to a shop where, you know, it's made by black women, the makeup as well. And it's just like right now I think there's something like in the States, within white people, the money turns like 17 times in their community, and within the black community it's only once. And so
if you're lucky.
Yeah, if you're lucky. So like 1 to 17, come on now, I think liberation will be when we manage to secure, like we have our own TVs and we can buy from ourselves without oppressing, you know, black women in the global, women of color in the global south. You know, because a lot of times we're going to Primark and buying all this stuff, you know, who made it? And or we're buying all these computers, like where did their components come from? You know, the poorest regions in the world and stuff. So I think it'd be good to be able to spend money that isn't blood money within our own community. And then on a more emotional level, I have a little sister. She's 1 in 2 days, and yeah, right. And I want to be able to like look at her and not think, right, how are we going to deal with this? Because that's the thing. Like, she's my half sister. Because my dad's black, her mom's white, and they live in the Balkans, which is like there's no black people there. There's legit no black people there, and yeah, and so you know, I like for us to have an image worldwide. I don't want people to still go off of stereotype, because even if we manage to secure like a specific image within the UK, that's not going to directly transfer to the rest of the world. So even then, we'll still have to be paving the way for different people. So I think, yeah, I'd like to look at her and think like, oh, you'll be alright, you know, and not think that just because of her blackness that there's going to be problems, and already having to be thinking like, what conversations am I going to have with you that you can't have with your mom?